once trust is broken, can a relationship that seemed solid before still be maintained as before? Arya often asks herself this question. She and Caleb. One is 33 years old and the other is 28 years old. This sister-brother relationship was once blessed by countless people, but now it seems to be in crisis. It was an ordinary night. Caleb was taking a shower in the bathroom, and the sound of water echoed in the small space. Arya sat on the sofa in the living room, flipping through magazines bored lie. Suddenly, Caleb's mobile phone screen lit up, a local number flashed, and there was no call reminder. Arya subconsciously picked up the phone and answered the call. "Hello?" she asked softly, with a hint of doubt in her voice. There was silence on the other end of the phone, and no response. Arya asked again, "Who is this?" It was still dead silent. A few seconds later, the other end of the phone hung up directly, leaving only a busy tone. Arya held the phone, and an inexplicable uneasiness surged in her heart. This silent phone call was like a stone thrown into a calm lake, stirring up ripples. Her intuition told her that something was wrong, so she unlocked Caleb's phone and found the corresponding person in his social software through the phone number. It was a girl with a soft and cute avatar, a picture of an anime character, nicknamed Elena, no notes, and set to do not disturb messages. Arya's heartbeat suddenly accelerated, her fingers trembled slightly, and she clicked into their chat box. The dialogue box was very clean, with only one unread message: "I miss you." Just these 4 words, like a heavy hammer, hit Arya's heart hard. Her face turned pale in an instant, and a feeling of betrayal surged in her heart. Arya took a deep breath and tried to calm herself down. She clicked into Elena's circle of friends. The cover was a photo of a young girl with a bun, pouting lips, and the breath of youth came to her face. Arya looked at the photo, and her heart was mixed. She quickly flipped through the content of the circle of friends, and suddenly, a dynamic caught her attention. Elena sent a message: "I only want $199, not $1 more." Attached below is a screenshot of her chat with Caleb. In the screenshot, Elena's note is Princess Breeder. She asked Caleb, "Where is the $199 you promised me?" Caleb then transferred 20,000 yuan, but Elena confiscated it and returned it, insisting, "I only want $199. Caleb replied with a string of ellipses, but still transferred $199 to her. Elena continued, "Do you know what $199 means? It means I want to be with you forever." Arya looked at these contents expressionlessly, and she took out her mobile phone and took pictures of them one by one for storage. After exiting Elena's circle of friends, she went into Caleb's bill and checked all their transfers. One transfer record after another was listed densely, from top to bottom, and it was impossible to pull the end. Among them, the most fixed large transfer was 50,000 at the beginning of each month, and this transfer has been going on for 3 months. In addition, there were countless transfers of 10,000, 20, 0, 1,200, 1,200, and 1,200, and even some special numbers, such as 199, 520, and 1314. Arya took photos of each transfer and kept them. She was extremely calm throughout the process, and even remembered to mark their chat window as unread when she exited. Caleb came out of the bathroom, his hair still dripping with water, and he casually pulled a towel to wipe it. That casual action used to be the fireworks of life in Arya's eyes, but now it made her heart tighten. His eyes seemed to inadvertently sweep over the phone in Arya's hand. Arya noticed the subtle tension, but pretended not to notice it. "By the way, someone called you just now," and hung up without saying a word. "Do you want to take a look?" Arya tried her best to make her tone sound natural, but her heartbeat was accelerating as if it was about to burst through her chest. "It's probably a harassing call, don't worry about it," Caleb said, reaching out to take the phone. The action seemed casual, but with a bit of haste. He threw the towel he used to wipe his hair into the laundry basket and picked up the cigarette box on the table. "I'm going to the balcony to smoke a cigarette." Because Arya didn't like the smell of cigarettes, Caleb always went to the balcony to smoke. This used to be a sign of his thoughtfulness, but now it has become a suspicious excuse. Arya looked at Caleb's back as he walked towards the balcony and sneered in her heart. She knew that Caleb went to the balcony not just to smoke, but to reply to the girl named Elena. She imagined Caleb smiling gently at the phone screen on the balcony and saying sweet words to Elena, and her heart was stabbed. After a while, Caleb came in and said to Arya, while changing his clothes, "Wife, I'm going out for a while. I have something urgent. Don't wait for me tonight." His tone was very urgent, as if there was really something urgent waiting for him to deal with. "What's wrong?" Arya asked, her eyes fixed on Caleb, trying to flaw in his expression. "Zane's machine has a problem. I don't know if it's just his bad luck. It was fine when he was debugging it, but it either had a screen distortion or crashed when he got it. I have to go over and take a look. If it's too late, I'll stay there and won't come back, Caleb explained. He spoke in a very orderly and detailed manner, as if he was really in that tense work scene. Zane will go with you? Arya asked again. She knew that Zane was Caleb's childhood friend and their mutual friend. She wanted to see if Caleb would reveal his hand on this issue. Yes, Caleb answered very straightforwardly without any hesitation. He seemed very confident in the lies he made up and felt that Arya would definitely believe him. Arya looked at Caleb and sneered in her heart. She thought, Caleb, do you think I will believe these lies you made up? You underestimated me too much. She nodded and said, Be careful. Her tone was very calm, as if she really just cared about Caleb's safety, but her eyes revealed a hint of determination. After Caleb left, Arya sat on the sofa and didn't move for a long time. Her mind kept echoing what Caleb had just said. Those lies kept magnifying in her heart, making her feel extremely angry and disappointed. She thought, why was she so stupid? She had been kept in the dark by Caleb and thought he was the man who loved her. Arya's heart was full of contradictions and struggles. On the one hand, she wanted to find Caleb immediately, confront him face to face, and make him admit his mistakes. On the other hand, she felt that it was too impulsive to do so, and she needed to calm down and think about what to do next. She knew that once she confronted Caleb, their marriage might face a breakdown, and she needed to be fully prepared. Arya took a deep breath and tried to calm herself down. She told herself that she couldn't be swayed by emotions, and she had to face this problem rationally. She picked up her phone, looked at the evidence, and secretly vowed in her heart that she must make Caleb pay for what he did. At this time, Arya's thoughts drifted back to half a year ago. It was a hot summer day, the sun was scorching the earth, and the air was filled with a hot breath. Caleb was taken to the police station for fighting, and Arya was anxious and rushed over immediately. When she saw Caleb, he was sitting on a chair in the police station, with a scratch on his cheekbone, and the area around the wound was red and swollen, which looked a bit shocking. His eyes were fierce and full of hostility, like a wounded beast. Arya hadn't seen Caleb like this for a long time, and his changes made her feel strange and scared. The other party was beaten black and blue by Caleb, and was clamoring for Caleb to apologize and compensate. Caleb sneered, his eyes full of disdain. If Arya hadn't pulled him, he would probably have rushed up. After the matter was settled, Arya took Caleb away. At this moment, a girl in work clothes rushed up with a grateful smile on her face, and said to Caleb with 1,000 thanks, Sir, if I hadn't met you today, I really don't know what would have happened. Really, thank you so much. Arya was stunned for a moment and looked at Caleb. Caleb was impatient and frowned and said, I advise you to change your job quickly. The girl looked bitter and said helplessly, If there was no other way, I wouldn't. Caleb's expression became more irritated, and he interrupted the girl rudely. It has nothing to do with me, whatever you want. Imogen accompanied Arya that day. When Caleb shook off the girl and strode forward, Imogen pulled Arya and said with a puzzled look, Don't you think that girl is 3 or 4 points like you? Arya laughed dumbly, thinking that Imogen thought too much, but she couldn't help but look back at the girl twice. The girl had a high ponytail, fair skin, and big eyes, and she was indeed a bit similar to herself. However, Arya did not take it seriously at the time, thinking it was just coincidence. Now, Arya recalled the girl, and a strong sense of uneasiness surged in her heart. She took out her mobile phone and looked at Elena's photo. The picture in her memory gradually overlapped with the picture in front of her. That's right, it was her. The girl who appeared at the door of the police station was Caleb's lover, Elena. Arya's hands began to tremble, and she couldn't believe her judgment. She never thought that the seemingly innocent girl would have an affair with her husband. She felt like a fool, being played around by Caleb and Elena. Arya's heart was full of anger and unwillingness. She wanted to find Caleb immediately and ask him why he betrayed her, but she knew that doing so would only make things worse. She needed to calm down and think about what to do next. Caleb did not return all night, and Arya sat alone in the living room, and the air around her seemed to solidify. Her eyes fell dully on the wall clock, and the pointer ticked, and every sound seemed to knock on her heart. The room was filled with a dead silence, with only her heavy breathing echoing in the air. Arya's mind kept showing the figures of Caleb and the girl. Their intimacy was like a sharp knife, cutting her heart. She tried not to think about it, but those images haunted her like ghosts and could not be shaken off. She didn't know what to do, and her heart was full of pain and confusion. After an unknown amount of time, Arya slowly got up and walked towards the underground garage with a shaky step. Her hands trembled slightly as she took out the spare key and opened the door of the car. There was a familiar smell in the car, which was the smell of Caleb, but at this moment Arya felt extremely disgusted. She sat in the driver's seat, took a deep breath, and turned on the dash cam. The picture started playing, and Arya's heartbeat suddenly accelerated. Her eyes were fixed on the screen, and she couldn't believe what she saw. In the picture, Caleb drove to the university in the south of the city. He called the girl, his voice cold and urgent. "Get down." After a while, the girl jumped out and got on the passenger seat. As soon as she got in the car, the girl couldn't wait to get close to Caleb and kiss him, followed by a blushing gasp. "Did you touch that old woman?" The girl's voice was a little jealous and proud. Caleb's voice was low and impatient. "Did you touch her?" The girl insisted. Caleb's voice became hoarse and full of lust. "What do you think?" The girl laughed triumphantly. "All mine. Don't beg for mercy later." After Caleb finished speaking, the car sped away. Arya's face turned pale as paper. Her hands tightly gripped the steering wheel. Her knuckles turned white because of the force. Her breathing became rapid, and a strong feeling of nausea surged in her heart. She had never thought that her beloved husband would be so dissolute with other women outside. The car drove to a community near the school and stopped. When the surveillance screen showed the next picture, it was already 10 o'clock the next morning. Only Caleb was there. He looked a little tired, with messy hair and wrinkled clothes. The video screen played quietly, but Arya felt that the sound was like the roar of a devil echoing in her ears. Suddenly, a phone rang in the video. It was Finn, Caleb's childhood friend. "Where are you? Why haven't you come yet?" Finn's voice was a little anxious. "On the way," Caleb replied. "TSK, being late for so long is not your style. You won't go to see your Elena again." Finn's voice was a little teasing. Caleb said and did not deny it. "No, your frequency is too high." "Are you serious?" Finn seemed a little speechless. Caleb chuckled. "What is real? What is fake?" Arya sat on the bed, staring at Caleb's back without blinking, and her thoughts drifted back to the day they met. It was a sunny afternoon. The 18-year-old Caleb was carrying the worn-out back and squatting alone under a big tree at the station. His hair was a little messy, and his eyes revealed a trace of confusion and helplessness, like an abandoned puppy. Arya received a call from Miles asking her to pick up Caleb at the station. She thought it was just a small favor, but she didn't expect that this decision would change her life. When she saw Caleb, a trace of pity surged in her heart. The boy looked so lonely and fragile that she couldn't help but want to take care of him. Caleb went home with Arya honestly. As soon as he entered the door, he pulled Arya's sleeve and said pitifully, "Sister, I am very obedient. I will cook for you and clean the house for you. Don't drive me away." Arya looked at him with a mixture of laughter and tears, thinking that he was just talking nonsense. However, Caleb really did what he said. He got up early every day to prepare breakfast for Arya, and rode his electric donkey to pick her up from work in the evening. During that period, Arya's rental house became lively because of Caleb's arrival. Every day when she got home from get off work, she could smell the aroma of fruit and see Caleb's energetic smile. They worked together in the kitchen, watched TV together on the sofa, and shared the joys and sorrows of life together. Arya gradually got used to Caleb's existence, and her life became more fulfilling and meaningful because of him. Later, Arya learned that Caleb was admitted to the university in the city for her. He said that he met Arya once when he was 16, and since then, she was the only one in his world. Arya was moved by Caleb's deep affection. She never thought that a boy 5 years younger than her would be so persistent in her. In Caleb's passionate pursuit finally made Arya fall for him. They started dating officially, and that time was the happiest time in Arya's life. They strolled in the streets together, watched the sunrise and sunset together, and planned their future life together. Caleb's love for Arya was like the sun, warm and hot, making her immersed in a sea of happiness. After marriage, the daily life of firewood, rice, oil, and salt slowly eroded the passion of love, and the days became dull. Arya's work entered a critical period. In order to get promoted, she was like a clockwork machine, working overtime and staying up late. Every day when she returned home, her physical fatigue overwhelmed her like a tide, and she just wanted to fall asleep on the bed. Caleb, as usual, hugged her intimately and tried to ask for a kiss, but she pushed him away irritedly. "Don't make trouble. I'm too tired. Next time." For the first time, Caleb didn't care. His eyes were full of heartache for her. He gently kissed her on the forehead and told her to rest early. The second time, although Caleb was not very happy, he still suppressed his temper when he saw her haggard face, and turned around and fell asleep silently. Caleb finally couldn't help but explode and slammed the door in anger. Arya looked at the slammed door, her heart full of helplessness and fatigue. She knew it was not good, but she really didn't have the energy to coax him. Later, Arya found Caleb in the bar. Under the dim light, Caleb drank one glass after another, his eyes full of loss and grievance. Arya felt the pain in her heart, and she realized that she had ignored Caleb's feelings. She walked forward, gently hugged Caleb's neck, and accepted his slightly fierce kiss. However, this intimacy was not good. Arya only felt pain. The physical fatigue and psychological pressure made her unable to devote herself. Caleb also noticed her discomfort and hurriedly ended this intimate contact. That night, Caleb turned his back to Arya, and for the first time he didn't turn around to hug her. Arya looked at Caleb's back, feeling mixed emotions. She didn't know how to solve the problem, nor how to coax Caleb. She thought it was just a small quarrel, but she didn't expect that this was the beginning of the deterioration of their relationship. That Caleb coaxed himself first. The next day, he smiled and said to Arya as if nothing had happened, "It's my problem. I was too anxious. Don't think too much. Don't take it to heart. When you're done, we'll go traveling." Arya thought that the matter was solved, and Caleb was still as good to her as before. Even if he no longer hugged her when he slept, even if they hadn't had sex for half a year, Arya didn't think much about it. She felt that as long as the feelings were still there, these were not a problem. But now, Arya realized that everything was just her self-deception. Caleb said that he thought she was dirty. This word was like a sharp dagger piercing her heart and making her feel miserable. Arya could never have imagined that the man who had been affectionate to her would use such vicious language to describe her. The morning sun shone through the gap in the curtains and fell on Arya's haggard face. She sat on the bed, sleepless all night, her eyes full of fatigue and determination. Caleb's betrayal was like a sharp blade, deeply hurting her heart and cutting off her last fantasy about this marriage. Arya picked up her phone and called Imogen. On the other end of the phone, Imogen's voice was still a little sleepy. "Hello, Arya. Calling so early. What's the matter?" Arya took a deep breath and tried to make her voice sound calm. "I want a divorce," Caleb jeered. "Ah?" Imogen suddenly woke up, her voice full of shock. "What, wasn't he on a business trip?" Arya sneered. He was on a business trip with his lover. These 3 sentences were like 3 heavy bombs, knocking Imogen unconscious on the spot. She was stunned for a long time before she said, "Wait a minute, let me think it through. Are you saying that Caleb cheated on you, and that his so-called business trip was with his lover? How did you know?" Arya threw her phone to Imogen, which had a circle of friends that Elena had just posted this morning. In the photo, Caleb was dragging his luggage with one hand and holding Elena's hand with the other. Elena said happily, "Let's elope." Arya actually added Elena just to give it a try, but she didn't expect that she was actually accepted. As for whether she knew that the person who added her was Arya, it didn't matter anymore. Arya said to Imogen, "Caleb is on a business trip for 3 days. Can I get the divorce agreement after 3 days?" Imogen looked grim and said without hesitation, "I'll draft it for you myself." Arya nodded and told him, "Don't tell Finn. Imogen is Finn's wife. It is said that it is not easy for them to be together," and Arya got to know her through Caleb. Unexpectedly, they became good friends after a few visits. Fate is a strange thing. Some people are still as close as new even when they are old, while others are still as close as old friends. "I know, don't worry." Actually, Imogen hesitated and finally shook her head. "Nothing. Let's talk later. How are you? Do you need me to accompany you?" Arya refused, smiled bitterly and sighed. "The flight is at 10 o'clock, and I have to go on a business trip too. This is the world of adults. You have to make time, even if you are sad." Arya handed over the photos, taken from Caleb's mobile phone and the surveillance backup to Imogen, as well as the details of their property. The only thing to be thankful for is that they don't have children yet. During the days of the business trip, Arya seemed to be busy with work as usual, but she was always tortured by pain and anger in her heart. Every night when it was quiet, she would take out the evidence and look at it over and over again, and the hatred in her heart became stronger and stronger. She hated Caleb's betrayal, his ruthlessness, and even more her stupidity, and she was kept in the dark by him. Imogen was also busy preparing a divorce agreement for Arya. She knew Arya's pain at the moment, so she tried her best to get the best benefits for Arya. She consulted a lot of legal information, carefully studied the property status of Arya and Caleb, and carefully considered every clause to make it perfect. Finally, on the afternoon of the day Arya returned from her business trip, Imogen handed her the prepared divorce agreement. Even if he is the party at fault, it is impossible for him to leave the house with nothing. But I will try my best to get the best benefits for you. Imogen looked at Arya and said seriously. Arya opened her mouth and wanted to say something, but was interrupted by Imogen. "Don't say you don't want it. He is the one at fault, so he should make compensation, including the money he gave to the mistress. All can be recovered. Mistakes must be paid for." Arya smiled and hugged Imogen. "Yes, I didn't say I don't want it. Imogen, thank you. Imogen patted Arya's back gently. It's no big deal, just a divorce. I'll be with you. That night, Imogen accompanied Arya to drink glass after glass of wine. They talked a lot, talking about the good times in the past, talking about expectations for the future, and talking about the regrets hidden in their hearts, until they both felt drunk and fell asleep on the carpet. The next morning, Arya was awakened by the alarm clock. She asked for leave and put on light makeup. Even if she was not in good condition, she had to go out because she was going to see Caleb, and she wanted to put an end to this broken marriage. Thanks to Elena's desire to share, Arya got first-hand resources for all her and Caleb's itineraries in these 3 days. They rode roller coasters, soaked in hot springs, and went bungee jumping. These were things Arya had never done with Caleb. Caleb liked excitement and the feeling of adrenaline bursting, but Arya couldn't stand those. He once begged Arya to accompany him to bungee jump, the kind for two, saying it was romantic and even wanted to take a set of wedding photos like that. But Arya stood on the bungee platform but never took that step. Caleb said it was okay, but Arya knew he was disappointed. In fact, think about it, Arya and Caleb have too many incompatibilities. When they were overwhelmed by love, they all said that love could overcome all difficulties. Now it seems that someone lied. Arya arrived at the airport early. Her eyes were firm and resolute, staring at the exit, waiting for Caleb and Elena to appear. The people around her came and went, and the noisy voices echoed in her ears, but she turned a deaf ear to them. At this moment, she only had eyes for the betrayer who was about to appear. Finally, Caleb showed up. He was wearing sunglasses and had a calm expression. Elena, who was beside him, held his arm and kept talking like a cheerful little bird. She walked briskly and had a bright smile on her face. She was cute and lovely. Let's go there next time, okay? On your birthday. This is the first time we've been together. Elena's voice was crisp and pleasant, full of expectations. Caleb. Arya suddenly raised her hand and called out in a loud voice. The shout seemed to penetrate the hustle and bustle of the entire airport, making people around her look sideways. Elena probably didn't hear it and continued to talk. Caleb paused. His body suddenly stiffened, as if he was cast under a spell. He pushed Elena away and turned to look at Arya in a hurry. At that moment, his eyes were full of fear, as if Arya was a flood beast. Facing Arya, Elena was still panicking. She stood there timidly, wanting to get close to Caleb, but not daring to. Her eyes were full of helplessness and confusion. Caleb quickly calmed down. He took a deep breath and tried to cover up his inner panic. He said to Elena, "You go first." His voice was a little hoarse, with a barely perceptible tremor. Elena suddenly looked up at Caleb, her mouth curled down in grievance, and her eyes were full of tears. She didn't want to leave. She didn't understand why Caleb wanted to drive her away. So Arya acted like a good person. "Let's go together. It's not easy to get a ride here." Her voice was calm, but with a kind of majesty that could not be refused. Caleb frowned, and a trace of anger flashed in his eyes. He said to Elena seriously, "Are you still not leaving?" His tone became tough, as if he was giving an order. Elena was frightened and took 2 steps back. Her body trembled slightly, and the tears in her eyes finally burst out. Arya also frowned. "I said together." She stared at Caleb closely, not flinching. Elena was also quite interesting. In this situation, most people would have fled, but she actually followed. Arya walked in front, Caleb behind her, and Elena followed behind Caleb, and the 3 of them formed a strange formation. Caleb opened the passenger door and wanted to get in, but was stopped by Arya. "If you have something, go to the back. It's not good to let the little girl sit alone." Arya's tone was very calm, but with a hint of sarcasm. Caleb looked at Arya, expressionless, with surging emotions suppressed in his eyes. He snorted and laughed, bang closed the car door, and got on the back seat. His movements were big, full of anger and unwillingness. The atmosphere in the car was really depressing, and the air seemed to be frozen. It was Arya who broke the silence. "Miss, tell Caleb and I have something to discuss. Do you want to come with us, or should I take you back to school first?" Her voice broke the silence in the car, carrying a chill. Being called out suddenly, Elena was somewhat at a loss. Her voice was trembling, and she couldn't even speak clearly. Caleb suddenly said, "What on earth do you want to do?" His voice rose 8 degrees, full of anger and impatience. Through the rear-view mirror, Arya glanced at Caleb. His expression was already very impatient. He was angry, and he was suppressing his anger. Arya felt pleased, so the smile on her face gradually expanded. "What major is Ms.?" "Tao studying." Her tone became relaxed, as if she was chatting with a friend. "German," Elena answered in a low voice. Arya was a little surprised. "Same as me? I have a classmate who is a teacher in your school." She then said in aim and asked Eleanor, "Do you know him?" Eleanor's face changed and her tone was weak. "Yes, he is my homeroom teacher." Her voice became smaller and smaller, and her head lowered. Arya laughed out loud. "That's a coincidence." There was a hint of sarcasm in her laughter. Eleanor was finally sent back to school by Arya. When she got off the car and left, she walked hurriedly without looking back. She was like a frightened deer just wanting to escape from this place. That scared her as soon as possible. Arya asked Caleb, "Where is the house you rented nearby?" "Let's go up and sit down." Her eyes were fixed on Caleb, not missing any of his expressions. Caleb's eyes were always on Arya. He gritted his teeth and said word by word, "What do you want to do?" His voice was full of anger and confusion. Arya restrained her expression. "I disgusted you all along the way. Now, let's talk about divorce." Her tone became cold, and her eyes revealed a hint of determination. The next day, Arya arrived at the Civil Affairs Bureau on time at 8 o'clock, took a number, and waited quietly for Caleb. People came and went in the Civil Affairs Bureau, and everyone had different expressions on their faces, some sad, some helpless, and some relief. Arya sat on the chair, her eyes empty, her thoughts drifting back to the past, the sweetness and happiness that once existed. Now all became painful memories. About 10 minutes later, Caleb appeared. He sat down beside Arya without saying a word, with injuries on his face, a dejected look, and his eyes full of fatigue and regret, as if he had aged 10 years overnight. His hair was messy, his beard was sprouting, and the whole person was in a mess. Not long after, the number was called. Arya stood up and was about to go to the divorce window, but Caleb suddenly grabbed her wrist with great force, as if he was grabbing the last straw. "I lied to you that day. I didn't go to her. I had broken up with her. She called me and said that her scholarship was cancelled. I knew it wasn't you. I was just suddenly very happy that I finally had a reason to find you. I didn't think about divorce, never thought about divorcing you." Caleb's voice was difficult, choked with sobs, and his eyes were full of pleading. Arya looked at Caleb with mixed feelings in her heart. Once, she loved this man deeply and was willing to give everything for him. But now, his betrayal broke her heart. She took a deep breath and tried to calm her voice. "Caleb, you cry so hard that I feel a little sick." This sentence was like a sharp knife, piercing Caleb's heart. Caleb tightened his grip on Arya's hand, hesitated for a while, and said blankly, "What did you say?" He couldn't believe his ears. Arya broke free from Caleb's hand, tore up the paper in her hand, and took a new number. She looked at Caleb with a resolute look in her eyes. "In fact, we haven't had a good talk since the incident. You didn't ask me how I knew you cheated, nor did you ask me what I knew. Let's sort it out. Since half a year ago, our husband and wife life has been in disharmony. You were depressed and met Elena when you were drunk. Maybe because she was a bit like me, or maybe because she was young and energetic. To excuse yourself, you found problems with me. You said I was dirty after the age of 3, because of the fine lines on my face and my no longer plump figure. You said I was like a withered flower, and you could smell the odor from a long distance." Arya's voice was excited, and her eyes flashed with anger. These words had been suppressed in her heart for too long, and now they were spoken out all at once. "Caleb, when you used those harsh words to describe me, do you know how disgusting I am?" I began to doubt myself. How could I have stepped on a pile of dog shit? The dog shit stuck to my shoes, and I still complained that my shoes were smelly. Arya's words were like sharp blades, stabbing Caleb, and every word was full of resentment and unwillingness. Caleb's face was pale, his lips trembled, and he wanted to defend himself but couldn't. He knew that Arya's words were true, and his betrayal and hurtful words had completely broken her heart. He lowered his head, not daring to look directly into Arya's eyes, full of guilt and regret. Arya's words tore apart the last dignity of each other, and the divorce procedures went smoothly without disputes and quarrels. The staff reminded them to get the marriage certificate in a month, and Arya nodded, with relief in her eyes, as if she had unloaded a heavy burden. Caleb got up and left, and Arya called him. "When are you going to pack your things?" The voice was calm, without any ways. He said without looking back, "Throw it away." His voice was resolute, as if he wanted to completely cut off the connection with the past. Arya quickly gathered back, her scattered mind due to the divorce. The busy work became her best safe haven, leaving her no extra time to complain about herself. Every day, she came to the company early and began to deal with the piles of documents, communicate with customers, and attend various meetings. She was like a tireless machine, devoting herself to work wholeheartedly. Whenever she felt tired or sad, she would tell herself to be strong, work hard, and not be defeated by the past. She believed that time would heal everything, and as long as she worked hard, she would be able to forget the pain of the past and start a new life. In this process, Arya gradually discovered the fun and meaning of work. Through her own efforts, she brought a lot of results to the company and was recognized and praised by leaders and colleagues. These recognitions and praises made her feel that her value was reflected and made her mood better and bettered. In this way, day by day, Arya had not thought about Caleb for a long time. However, fate did not seem to let her off easily until Finn called her. "Sister Arya, I know I shouldn't contact you, but Caleb has been hospitalized twice for alcohol poisoning in the past half-month, and I can't stop him. Now only you can persuade him." "Sister Arya, Caleb knows he's wrong." Finn's voice was full of anxiety and helplessness. Arya's heart moved slightly when she heard the news. She thought she had completely let go of Caleb, but she couldn't help but worry when she heard the news that he was in the hospital. She knew that Caleb was a very stubborn person, and it was difficult to change once he made up his mind. She didn't know why Caleb had alcohol poisoning, nor why he became like this. Arya hesitated for a while and finally decided to go to the hospital to visit Caleb. She thought, no matter what their relationship was, Caleb was someone she had loved after all, and she couldn't watch him fall like this. When Arya came to the hospital, Finn was sitting on a chair outside the ward, looking tired. When he saw Arya, he stood up quickly, his eyes full of expectation. "Sister Arya, you are finally here. Caleb has been refusing to listen to my advice, and I really have no choice." Arya nodded and walked into the ward. Caleb was lying on the bed, his face pale and his eyes empty. When he saw Arya, a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes, but it soon disappeared. "Caleb." Arya just started to speak, and was interrupted by Caleb eagerly. "My arm hurts. My left arm, and it hurts especially when it rains." Caleb's voice was a little hoarse. "That year, we didn't see each other for half a year. I told you that I was locked up by my dad, that in fact, I was in the hospital and my dad broke my arm. I didn't tell you because I was afraid you would worry." Arya was slightly shocked when she heard this. She remembered that year Caleb suddenly disappeared for half a year, and when he came back, he didn't say a word to her. She thought Caleb was unwilling to say it because of family matters, but she didn't expect that he was so seriously injured. "Then why are you talking about it now?" Arya asked. Caleb looked up and looked at Arya cautiously. "I just want you to know that I have given a lot for you. I don't want you to forget me, and I want to start over with you." Arya smiled bitterly when she heard this. She thought that Caleb still didn't understand that the problem between them was not because of how much he had given to her, but because of his betrayal. His betrayal had completely broken her heart, and it was impossible for them to go back to the past. "Actually, it's inappropriate for you to say this now. If you told me at the beginning, I would feel very distressed and think that you were paying for me. But now, Caleb, that was your own decision, and it was your own sacrifice to be with the one you love. You should bear the consequences, good or bad. Just like me, the person I chose cheated, and I should bear the consequences, good or bad." Arya's voice was calm, but with a hint of determination. The hope in Caleb's eyes gradually dimmed, and he turned his face away. "Since you don't even want to give me a chance, then what are you doing here?" Arya lowered her eyes and looked at Caleb. "I came here to tell you not to kill yourself, and don't delay me getting the marriage certificate in half a month." "Caleb, I just want a divorce, not a widower." Caleb was furious. "When you hate me so much?" Arya didn't even turn her head back. "If you were in my shoes, you would have wanted to kill me." After saying that, she turned and left the ward. Arya left without hesitation, leaving Caleb lying alone in bed, his heart full of pain and regret. He couldn't understand why Arya was so heartless and why she was unwilling to give him a chance. He felt that he knew he was wrong and he had tried to correct it, so why didn't Arya forgive him? Finn had a headache. He walked into the ward and looked at Caleb. "I have called people for you. Can't you put down your face and talk to her nicely?" Caleb said coldly, "Don't worry about it. Even if I die in the future, you don't have to call her again." Finn was helpless. Later, "If you really want to save it, why are you so angry? In fact, I have never understood why you are always calm when facing other people and things, but you are like a child who has not grown up in front of Arya." Caleb turned his head to the window and stopped talking. He didn't know why. He wanted to talk nicely and he wanted to bow his head, but when facing Arya, he felt wronged inexplicably. It was obviously his fault, but he just felt wronged. It was as if Arya had to tolerate him, regardless of return or gains and losses. Caleb was panicked. He had been in a panic since he saw Arya at the airport. He was eager to do something, but he was desperate and knew that nothing he did would help. Arya would not forgive him, he knew. Cheating on Elenat's a mistake. Once you make a mistake, you want to cover it up. So when Finn pointed it out, he was a little angry. So he said something sarcastic. Caleb regretted it after he finished speaking. He repeatedly warned Finn not to spread his words, otherwise he would not be friends anymore. He even dared not face Arya, ashamed and embarrassed. Caleb knew that it was reasonable for this broken relationship to be abandoned, but he was panicked and he didn't know what to do. Elena came to him more than once. She cried and said Arya bullied her. I received a subpoena from the court, asking me to return the money you gave me. Those were all given to me by you. Why should she return it? Caleb, are you going to let her bully me like this? Elena's voice was full of grievance and anger. Caleb found it funny after hearing this. In fact, Arya has always been like this. She will take revenge for every little grudge and bears grudges. If Elena hadn't falsely accused her, she might not have thought of asking for the money back. Just like Arya said, if she really wanted to mess with Elena, she could let Elena drop out of school. Elena still wanted to be with Caleb. She thought that since Caleb was going to divorce, she could naturally become a regular employee. But she didn't know that Caleb could be with anyone except her. She was a witness to Caleb's decadent life and ridiculous past. She was a stain just like the wrong things Caleb did. No one would keep a stain around them. Elena had spent all the money a long time ago and didn't want to return it. It was Caleb who filled the hole. He told Elena not to come to him again. Otherwise, he would also ask for the debt. Elena left angrily, slapped him before leaving, and called him hypocritical. Caleb took it, no matter it was the slap or the scolding. After being discharged from the hospital, Caleb devoted all his body and mind to work. He numbed himself with these things, leaving himself no time to think about Arya and those painful memories. He went out early and came back late every day, working overtime and exhausting himself. Only in this way could he temporarily forget his pain. Until the day of the death penalty, he did not delay or regret, and obediently followed Arya to get the certificate. Arya was in good condition and was still confident and outspoken. Caleb watched her leave, and she suddenly turned back. Caleb apologized to me. Arya's voice was very calm, but with a hint of expectation. Caleb's hands in his pockets were shaking. He opened his mouth, but he couldn't spit out those 3 words. He wanted to apologize. He knew he was sorry for Arya, but he couldn't say it. He felt that he was not qualified to apologize, and his apology seemed so pale and powerless in front of Arya. Arya was a little disappointed and turned away. Caleb took a step forward. Arya, I'm sorry. His voice was full of regret and guilt. It was difficult for him to say these 3 words, but they were also his truest thoughts. Arya stopped, raised her hand and waved, and walked forward with big strides. This time her back seemed lighter, as if she had unloaded all the burdens. She knew that from this moment on, everything between her and Caleb was completely over. She finally got Caleb's apology, although it came a little late, but she still felt a little relieved. She was going to start a new life, and she believed that the days to come would definitely be better.